It is my honor to welcome you to the Global Virtual Cancer Conference, or as we call it, GVCC. This is an incredibly special year for us, as this is the fifth anniversary of this event. And it all goes back to a moment that my co-founder and our chairwoman, Shelley Nolden, had when she was going through her inpatient treatment. She was walking around the leukemia wing and passed a flyer for a cancer conference, and at the same time felt how much she wanted to be able to attend and just how much she knew that she couldn't at that moment in her life. And from that moment and Shelley's experience, this whole global cancer conference, global virtual cancer conference series has been born, so that regardless of where we are or at what stage we are in our cancer journey, we're able to come together for connection, education, and to advocate for ourselves and our loved ones. I am Dave Craig, the CEO of Grit Health, a two-time cancer survivor, bereaved caregiver, and patient insights researcher. And all of our team brings our expertise and our lived experience to this work to meet people where they are and to improve systems and health outcomes together. All of our sessions that you are going to be a part of today focus on the real human experiences of going through cancer. They are all shared by individuals facing the experiences themselves and working to improve health outcomes with their peers and through their jobs. These will be real life and practical conversations about our experiences and resources to help navigate them. And our hope is that we can help you navigate your diagnosis, support your peers, and improve health systems together. You'll get to be with us for several powerful sessions throughout the day, and I'm just going to give you a very quick overview now so you know what's in store for the rest of today. You're going to stay right here for our very first session entitled Your Voice, Sparking Meaningful Change in Society. This is brought to life through Grit's partnership with Takeda and co-created with humans living different lung cancer experiences and working to improve them. Our next session at 11:15 a.m. Eastern is entitled Helping Yourself and Others Through Advocacy. And that one is brought to life through our partnership with CGen and co-created with individuals living with and working to improve different cancer outcomes. We'll then have a lunch meetup with Lauren, our VP of Community, where we'll get to take a break and hang out with each other in a casual environment to meet our peers and see what our community meetups are all about. And then at 1 o'clock Eastern, our session is titled How Identity Impacts Equitable Access to Cancer Care. And this is brought to life through our hero friends at the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and some of their advocate leaders changing lives and the future. And then our last live session today will begin at 2 p.m. Eastern and is entitled Your Guide to Understanding Mental Health and Cancer. And it is brought to life through our partners at the Cancer Support Community and created by heroes and advocates that we respect with all of our heart. There's one special resource on the platform today, specifically for individuals looking to eliminate the financial fear attached to a cancer diagnosis. And that is brought to you in partnership with Iris Finance. And so we encourage you to look through the resource panels and dig into that one whenever you find that one. Okay, before we get underway, I want to say a very special thank you to our sponsors who have helped bring this session to life and enable this to be a no-cost event for all attendees wherever we are. This conference focuses on connection, education, and resources so that we can all advocate for ourselves, support our peers, and change systems together. And that would not be possible without Takeda, CGen, Cure Media Partner, all of our nonprofit partners, and the individuals who have brought this to life. All of these sessions will also be recorded and available for 24/7 access following the conference. And so we encourage you to visit the Grit Health platform, navigate the new functionality, and engage with this content anytime now or after in its recorded content. Our mission, and the most important place to start this event officially, is to amplify more voices to improve health outcomes. That is a sacred thing to us because we can never assume or think that we fully understand what another human's experience is going through cancer. And that is why we have to listen to each other and we have to include those voices and those experiences to improve outcomes where they are needed most. And it is for that reason, and Lisa, my incredibly deep honor to introduce you to a woman who lives that mission through her work and her personal life. Please help us welcome our first speaker to officially kick off the 5th anniversary of the Global Virtual Cancer Conference, Lisa Cruz.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Dave. I am very honored to be with the team today and share with you a little bit of the work that we've been doing in collaboration with Grit Health over the last 2 years. So welcome everyone. I hope everyone is as excited for the 5th annual GVCC. Before we get started, I do want to let you know that closed captions are available for today's session. Emily, is there anything that we need to do to access closed captions, or do they show up automatically?
You should be able to click them at the bottom of your screen if that's something you need to access.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So good morning. As Dave mentioned, my name is Lisa Cruz, and I'm the Patient Advocacy and Engagement Lead, and I'm focused on non-small cell lung cancer at Takeda Oncology. I've been in this role for about 3 years, and this position serendipitously came across my desk about 3 to 4 months after I lost my father to his battle with lung cancer. And I can just say it's been such a journey connecting with Grit Health and our health equity advisors to better understand what the collective lived experience has been or is for people who are working the lung cancer space. And I couldn't be more thankful for kind of the time and place this all came into my life. At Takeda Oncology, we aspire to cure cancer, and we understand that delivering safe and effective medications is really only one aspect of ensuring that all people living with cancer are able to achieve their optimal health. We focus on the collective experience of patients, caregivers, healthcare providers to better understand what the barriers are for delivering safe, effective medications for all people. Through our collaboration with Grit Health and the Health Equity Council, we've been honored to host bold and honest conversations about the barriers that are in place that we need to overcome to ensure people are offered an opportunity to achieve their greatest health outcomes. The core of our discussion has always been about the value of your voice and harnessing and recognizing your power. And I have to say, through this process, Dave have really offered me an opportunity to find my voice and recognize my power. So it's been a journey for all of us. So the one piece of advice I would give to anyone who's beginning their own advocacy journey or is on their advocacy journey is to understand that your voice matters and that you can affect change. Today, through our meaningful conversation that's upcoming, we can begin to build connection, learn how to support one another, and drive change. I'm thrilled to have with us today 3 phenomenal humans I've been able to work closely with over the past 2.5 years, who are going to share their advocacy journey with us. Laronica Conway, a care partner turned advocate. Michelle Ottersbach, a nurse navigator who found her voice and sense of purpose in increasing access to lung cancer screening. And Dave Craig, a 2-time cancer survivor, CEO and founder of Grit Health, who is dedicated to amplifying the patient experience to create more equitable health outcomes for everyone. And with that, I'll pass it to Dave and just give everybody a warm welcome to the conference.
Lisa, thank you so much. We can't think of a more meaningful and purposeful way to start this 5th anniversary than for what you just shared. And so we are incredibly honored to start this way. I just want to share a couple of framing comments to help us get the most out of this session. And so please keep in mind that this is meant to be an informational session, and any medical decisions should be made with your healthcare team. And we always ask to be most respectful and listen to everybody's lived experiences. Any behavior that doesn't embody that fully, we have to ask to leave these sessions. We want everybody to express their full identity and full perspectives without any criticism. This session is being recorded, and we welcome you to participate in the chat, to share comments, or in the Q&A function to send messages directly to us so we can respond to them. And with that being said, please feel free to start sharing any comments in the chat as we get underway here. We'll do our best to loop into them as we get started with this conversation. When we were shaping this with Lisa and the Grit Health team, and then with Laronica and Michelle, I was initially hesitant to want to be one of the individuals, especially moderating this session. And the reason is because I don't want to ever take away space from the voices that we need to hear living with these experiences. And we had a really open, candid, and wonderful conversation about how this is all of our responsibilities and all of our opportunities to have these conversations and to sit at the table to make change together. As the CEO of Grit Health, I have the opportunity and the obligation to live that in our work every day, so that the voices who need to be heard are, and so that we integrate them into the healthcare system to improve outcomes and experiences for everybody. And with that framing, I just want to share with you how incredibly important it is to have Laronica and Michelle with us to share these experiences and how they've changed their lives and now the lives they're changing as a result. And so, Laronica, with all of the honor and gratitude for being with us, I'm so proud to introduce you to start our session.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning, everybody. And I am excited to be here. This is a great opportunity. I never thought that I would be doing something like this. I've got friends that say, well, why are you doing this? And I'm thinking, you know what? This is just something that feels right. So my name is Laronica, as David said. I am originally from Louisiana, but I live in Birmingham, Alabama now. And in 2008, my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer, stage 4. Now, of course, at that point, 2008, we weren't really sure what that really meant. You kind of feel like, okay, where do you go for answers? Who do you talk to? And I think that was the confusing part for us. We just didn't know where to turn. And so I'm living in Birmingham, Alabama. She's in Louisiana. And I spent a lot of time driving back and forth. And I think for me, that was the part that was the stressing. Like, I wanted to make sure I was there for her. So fast forward, a couple of years, I'm taking her to drive to doctor's appointments and seeing her in this environment where, most people that she's with, they're confused and they don't understand and they don't have a lot of people with them. And I'm thinking, okay, this is a different environment. My background is college athletics, and I actually oversaw all of these events, and it was fun stuff, right? But then I get into this environment where people are serious and this is life and death. And I'm thinking, okay, I've got to do something different. I'm sitting here with my mom and we're talking to each other, but there are people in these doctor's appointments that don't have anybody. Who's helping them? And so I think that was the change for me that I saw that I needed to do to say, okay, what's next for me in my career? At that point, I was 45 and I'm thinking, all right, I still got time to make some changes. And, I helped my mom throughout the way. And at that point, that's when I decided it's time to make a change. I resigned from my job and moved to Louisiana temporarily because I still had a house in Birmingham. And I moved to Louisiana and I was there for her. And we loved going to Chick-fil-A, eating waffle fries and staying up at 1 a.m, eating pickles and popcorn and watching movies. And for me, I think that was the most important part of it. Yes, she was going through cancer. Yes, she was dealing with the uncertainty, but to be there, I think, was the most important part of it, just being there. And so I think that's what pushed me into the next part of my career, finding someone that I could be there for. So that's why I ended up changing my career.
Laronica, we're going to dig into the work that you've been doing with the Improving Health Equity and Lung Cancer Initiative and how you're applying that work now to change lives. And just so excited to start that conversation with you in just a minute. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. And our other panelist and remarkable human to introduce to you for this conversation is Michelle Ottersbach. And Michelle, so honored and grateful to have you with us for this conversation as well.
Yeah, my name is Michelle Ottersbach. I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm an exercise physiologist who started to see like barriers to care, working in cardiac rehab and then cancer and oncology patients. And I just saw that while someone had a heart attack, I mean, we had resources available to get them through the system, but if people were diagnosed with cancer, there was nothing, at the time, and that was around the loss and transition. So, and I was able to see those findings, and then I decided to go back and get my nursing degree when in order to make a bigger impact in cancer rehabilitation and wellness. And that's when the opportunity presented itself to get involved in lung cancer screening, where I was able to see the access barriers. Why are people not getting screened? And I found it's like a lot of it is system. We just can't get in, or we're not letting them know, or we're making it hard for people. And I started to reflect on my family. I mean, my family has a high risk of cancer. My grandmother received indigent care in the 70s, and her sisters have been other family members diagnosed in the 90s and 2000s and up to 2020. It's just trying to get people access to care, and it's like it just feels like if you live in a certain zip code, it's just difficult to survive. And so what can I do to break those barriers down so people know their voice is powerful? They are a member of that team, an equal member of their healthcare team, and they have a voice, and to just break down those barriers.
Michelle, and I think this conversation we're going to have together is so important because when someone faces a diagnosis, they have no way of even knowing what those barriers are or where they exist. We all have been in advocacy now for years or decades, and we're still learning which barriers exist. And so, this initiative that we've all been a part of together, improving lung cancer health equity, we're going to share more of what we've learned from that, and then how specifically we're working to address these stigmas and these barriers and all the things that we face. And so, Laronica, if we can start with, I always think of like the day that I was diagnosed and just how overwhelming that moment was. How did you make this massive transition in your life? We can look at you now and see the purpose and the legacy that you're creating, but take us back to that first moment when you just started to say to yourself, what is advocacy and how do I do that? What was that like?
I had no idea what advocacy meant, right? Like I mean, what does it mean, right? And when you break it down, after I started looking at it, I realized that just being there for my mom was advocating for her. Okay. So that means that being there for your neighbor, for your aunt, your best friend, you're advocating for them. Okay. So at the time when you're in it, you don't realize that's what you're doing. Okay. So if you're going to a doctor's appointment and the doctor is saying all the doctor speak stuff, and you're like, slow down, let's back up to that last point you made. What does this mean? You're advocating. Okay. And so the main thing I want people to understand is that, when you're advocating, that means you're caring for that person in that way by asking the questions. And so when I started doing this, it was just because I cared about my mom enough to understand what she was going through and how we were going to get through this, because we had no clue. This was 2008, 2009, and they were still working on developing the drugs. And I think Keytruda was still sort of in the clinical trial stages at that point. And, my mom was stage 4. So, at that point, she was getting radiation and chemo, but just not a lot of options. And so I felt like, okay, we're working through this. My mom, was at a point where she could understand some stuff. But then I said, okay, once we get through this, where are the people who don't understand? Who's helping them? Who's advocating for them? And so that's when the switch changed for me. I would come back to Birmingham and things look different. I can't explain it, but just watching a movie looked different. Talking to people about stuff was different because I was always thinking, how can I help somebody else? Helping someone cross the street was different. Holding the door, getting mad because someone's parking in the handicapped parking spot. Like, what are you doing? All of that stuff, your mind starts to change. And not that, you weren't doing that before, but you become more compassionate. And so for me, I don't think I had a choice. Advocacy chose me, I guess, is the best way to think about it. And just being more compassionate and realizing that if you care about someone, you're already advocating for them. You're advocating to make sure that they're eating well. You're advocating to make sure that they've got someone to talk to. So yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer to switch careers. And I don't know, if we get into that now, but at some point, yeah, that was the impetus for me to say, okay, I got to do something that allows me to help people every day. And going into healthcare, volunteering at the cancer center, and ultimately working in clinical trials, consenting patients to trials is sort of what I ended up doing. So, and I got a chance to help people every single day. So that was my advocacy work every day. And it still is. It still is.
You said, Laronica, that if you care about somebody, you're advocating already. And
Yeah.
those are just so powerful because we think about this advocacy being this big, daunting, thing. And how do I learn to find my voice? I saw in the chat, Adrian made a comment about, looking to find courage and find your voice. And I would say we're already doing that by being together. I shared with you in our previous conversations the single moment that changed my life after going through 2 reproductive cancers and all the shame and guilt that I felt was seeing a woman holding up a plushie of the reproductive system. And she was saying, this one's not going to kill me. This one's not going to try to kill me. And that moment shook me out of hiding the shame and just hiding everything I was. And the way you talk about welcoming people into these conversations, I feel how much you're changing lives and opening eyes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think you have to look at it like that. It's just your basic tone and conversation that when you have a conversation with people, if someone has a question, you're not dismissive or, off-putting, you're patient, you take the time to answer the questions. There's a lot that goes into it, but if you're compassionate and you care, you're an advocate. It doesn't take a lot. Um, you're taking someone to the grocery store, you're an advocate, I think, because that's their journey. They just may not have anyone to take them. That is their journey. They're fighting cancer or whatever the disease is, and they've got a lot of things to do. Going to the grocery store is one of them. Help them go to the grocery store.
I love it. That's so powerful. Michelle, same start for you, with everything you're doing now and the legacy you're creating. What was it like at the very beginning of that for day one to try to start to figure that out?
Day one, I have to recognize I had an angel come to me in the form of a nurse. I had to call her out. Her name is Tony. I was an exercise physiologist working in cardiac rehab. And in cardiac, everything is cookie cutter. If you have a heart attack, it goes all the way through. And it's like we had the resources and very structured. And she was speaking on our stress management. And then we just engaged in discussion on, you know, people who have been diagnosed with cancer don't have the same access that heart patients have. And it's like, and she's like, you know, the oncologists are just saying this. And she allowed me to come over and work with her to do some cancer exercise and wellness programming. And I began to hear stories of what people were encountering in their journeys. And it's like, well, we never, I mean, the barriers, I mean, it's like, okay. And then the loss and transition report came out, talked about the fragmentation of care at the time. And I started developing cancer wellness and rehab programs and developed that passion. And then I realized if I wanted to take this further, to be a voice for the people, you know, and make sure they got the care they needed in a timely manner, you know, to break those barriers down, I had to do something. And so I went back to nursing school because you have to have a license. They were asking for a licensed professional. So in my 30s, I went back and got my nursing degree. And then as I was like working as a new grad, I was kind of getting beat up on the bedside. Nurses, they're young. And then I got a calling, like I got a tap on my shoulder, and the University of Cincinnati called and said, "We want you to work with us, help us with our lung cancer screening program." And then I came home, and there was a flyer on the hospital that I was working with as a new grad. It said, "Hey, we're going to talk about lung cancer screening in this symposium." And I'm like, "Whoa, this is a sign from God." And so I helped them with the lung cancer screening program. And I was able to see, we've moved on since then, but in those 10 years, I've been able to see the barriers to getting people screened, and everything from comments from healthcare professionals, from people who smoke, to that were unfair, to just barriers to getting screened. And I started, and then looking back at all my family members, I have family members who will not get screened because they said no one in our family survives, you know. And if you look back, it's like, okay, whether it was my grandmother in the 70s, or my uncle in 2000, you know, or family members in 2020 who just haven't been able to get access quick enough when having symptoms and not providing the quality of care. And I'm like, okay, this is where I belong, you know, and to provide that voice for the people to get access. It doesn't matter what zip code you live in, you deserve to be treated. You know, if someone tells you there's an abnormal finding, you do not deserve to be waiting 2 months to get seen. You could get worked in that same week to see a specialist. And so what can I do to expedite that journey? And so it has allowed me to reflect, to ensure that the way I communicate with people, you know, because the way we communicate, it's not really, I mean, it is what we communicate, but it's also how we communicate it to other people to make sure they come back, you know, and they feel loved, they feel hope, and involved in their health care, and in order to ensure they get the highest quality of care possible, because every human being deserves to be safe and receive the highest quality of care in a timely manner. It does not matter what your insurance is. We have resources. Every healthcare system has resources. We can get you in. So, and just that's where my advocacy is.
Yeah. So often what we advocate for comes through our own personal experiences, right? And you both have shared, you know, how the experiences you had sitting in hospitals or waiting rooms influenced you to change your lives and help others. Laronica, what advice do you have for people? And I see comments in the chat about, you know, advocacy as being just continuing to ask your care team questions until you feel heard, and all these things that patients newer in a diagnosis might be experiencing for the first time. What do you have for those individuals who are early in the journey now and trying to find their voice?
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to actually respond to Beth. Beth, listen, let me tell you something. You are there to learn as much as you can about you and your diagnosis, okay? The doctor is there to help you. Never forget that, okay? That's why he or she is there. All right. So that time that they're giving you is for you. If you have a list of questions, do not leave until they answer every question on that list. Okay. Now that even if they come in and they seemed rushed and hurried, listen, that's your time. That 30-minute slot or whatever it is, that's your time. Okay. And so even if you think of something later, don't leave the building. Turn around. Don't go back to your car. Come back in and say, wait, I have another question. It's okay. I worked in radiation oncology, and the doctors that I worked with were great. And I was always in them. They in there with them when they talked to the patients. They would talk for the longest, just explaining the procedures. And no question is a dumb question. No question is out of the ordinary, because trust me when I say they've seen and heard it all of the questions. Okay. So what you want to do is make sure that you're comfortable with how you feel when you walk out. Okay. With a direction that your treatment plan is going. And it's okay to ask those questions. So that's if you're by yourself. If you have someone with you, make sure that they are also the ones reminding you, hey, don't forget to ask about this. Or you have these conversations before you walk in. Say, hey, Diane, remember, I want to know about this, because you may forget. Make sure they have a notebook. Okay. But if you're by yourself, you have a notebook. You write these things down and slow them down, because this is something that they do all day, every day. This is not what you do all day, every day. Okay. So just remember that this is about you and your journey. Okay. So just remember that. And this is to everybody who have these feelings of inadequacy when you walk in thinking they've been to school for 30 years, they know more than me, but this is your body. Okay. Just remember that part. This is your body, and you need to know what's happening to it. Okay. And so advocating for yourself sometimes just means saying, wait, stop, slow down. I don't understand. And that's in because a lot of times, and most times, most physicians do not want to move forward if you don't understand. They don't want to go into a procedure if you don't understand what that means. Okay. So that's one of the main things that I could say that I would tell everyone to do.
Laronica, as you're talking, I'm just reading the comments coming in, and I can feel the connection to what you're saying. Jacqueline and Cheyenne are talking about, how important it is to be understood and that you're the captain of this team, and also just how intimidating and hurtful it can feel when you're not treated that way. So what can you share with anybody who's in those moments that's being treated that way? How do we help affirm how much that moment and they are the captain matters?
Me or Michelle? I'm sorry.
Yeah, please, Laronica.
Oh, so here's the thing. Again, it's like my mom was a teacher, okay? And so she went in with her brightly colored notebooks. And she went in with the attitude that I am here to understand what is happening to me. Okay. Um, there are situations where most people in healthcare scenarios may not hear you or understand you. And unfortunately, there's sometimes that you have to go the extreme to make that happen. And there are systems set in place, and Michelle knows as well, there are systems set in place when you don't get the feedback that you need or want. Okay. So we hope it never gets to that point where you have to go to, a system, a hospital administrator. But don't forget, there's always a social worker. There's always someone within that environment that you can go to. In radiation oncology, we had a social worker. We had 2 social workers on staff. Okay. So they were always there to help navigate, to help answer any questions that you couldn't get answered. But you've got to remember that this is your life. Okay. So your life is more important than anybody else's calendar or time schedule. Okay. Do not forget that. This is your life. You are living and breathing every single day. This calendar and what's on the piece of paper or what's on the screen, that's no, this is your life. Okay. So remember that when you wake up and you get ready to go to this appointment, you put on your clothes, you get your little notebook and you get your pen and you go in there with the idea that you're going to walk out with all the knowledge you need so you can move forward and figure out what's going to happen next. And you walk in there with that positive attitude and with hope. Okay. Okay. So what's next? I need to know what's next. I'm not walking out of here till I know what's next. And you don't have to sound like me. You don't have to go in there with, but just make sure they know that you mean business. And this is your life. Okay.
You said your life is more important than anybody's calendar. I feel every word of that. Michelle, how do you do that in the work that you see and the humans you work with every day too? Oh, I think it's still on. There we go.
I was on mute. Sorry. With what I do as a navigator, it's important for people to know that we work for you. We may work with those doctors, but we work for you. And so when you find, just know that you are the leader of the team. Your healthcare team is the expert in the science, but you are the expert in you. And as part of best practice, there are 3 things with best evidence-based practice: the guidelines, the medical evaluation, the physician, and the patient preference. The patient is always included in evidence-based practice, and you are an equal member of that team. And you need to know that you're not alone. If you feel like you're a time slot on someone's schedule, you can always get a second opinion. But also, we have resources. I've been blessed to be in the lung cancer community. So we have go to for lung cancer and longevity, where they have phone buddies. They're always there, and so they can connect you with somebody with a similar cancer diagnosis, and other people around the country for support. And you can be involved in their advocacy groups. What also drives me a lot is, even with the White Ribbon Project, that's a way to help practice telling your story with the White Ribbon as you engage with people around the country and locally to help make these ribbons, and just to learn the whole process of them. But you're connecting with other people and you start building up your confidence and your speaking. And so you can practice that, you gain more confidence. And then, you get more involved in groups like with grit, and practice telling your story. And you are powerful, and you matter, and your voice matters. And do not let any of us, say, if you don't feel comfortable with us, you need to find someone. So some of these advocacy groups can help you there. So like Go to your Longevity, and you are important, and you're a member of the team. And we, under our license, we work for you, and to empower your voice and create opportunities to be heard by your medical team.
Michelle, what can be so hard is that feeling like an individual or feeling misunderstood or worse, dismissed. There is almost no easy way to see where people are doing better and treating people better. And what you just shared, I think about Janet Woodcock, who's one of the senior leaders at the FDA here in the United States. And Janet Woodcock is one of the senior individuals leading new medicine development and outcomes for people, has said publicly the patient is the expert in their experience. And I know that anytime I feel hopeless or I see others feeling hopeless, to know that people in your position and in Janet's position are saying that we as individuals are the expert in our experience, that's so important because it can feel so dehumanizing when people are not treated that way.
And I absolutely agree. And I have seen people, and just people don't, as healthcare professionals, we need to be aware of our implicit bias and how we come across to people. There are no non-compliant patients. Uh, you know, and it's a way we communicate it. It's like, oh, they're a no-show, or they're. It's like, no, and why did they not show up to the appointment? And so we need to be aware of how we communicate. People want to improve. They want to be healthy. They want to improve their life. They want to quit smoking. They want to do all of these stuff. But what are we doing to act as a barrier to this? And so are we including them in the discussion? Did we just schedule their appointment? Well, they show up for their appointment, but you had them schedule their chest CT 2 hours away, and now they have to drive 2 hours to see their doctor. Now they have no, they work in a job where they don't have, they can't take off without using PTO. They have family to take care of, and so it's like, what are we doing? We are making that difficult. You could work them in to where you can consolidate appointments. So I take this personally as a healthcare professional of creating barriers, and with our implicit bias, we need to be more aware as healthcare professionals of our implicit bias and realize, why did we come in this role? We came in this role to help people. If you came into the role for the money, okay, well, then you probably need to find someone else to take care of you. But we did this to take care of. This is what our role is. This is what we practice under, and this is what we need to do. And people are important, and they need to be included.
Michelle, I've been a patient insights researcher for about 20 years, and every time I think I know what someone's going to say, I realize how wrong I can actually be, and asking is the only way to truly understand. And so what you just said, I love so much. Laronica, this can feel daunting. This is such a huge thing to deal with. How do you take care of yourself, and what do you do to make sure that you're okay in all this?
Well, if I could just go back real quick to what Michelle was saying, in terms of, we're talking about navigating systems and their, scheduling appointments that you physically can't get to or make or whatever. It's okay to ask for another location or another, time, or you don't have to take just what they give you. All right. And in my previous job, when I worked with the schedulers and worked with my patients, I would go to the schedulers and say, hey, this patient lives an hour and a half away, but we've got them doing an MRI at this location, but then the next appointment is over here. Can we get them here? And then they'll say, oh, she didn't tell me that. Sometimes it's just as simple as just saying, hey, I can't get there. Or, so you don't have to take just what they tell you. Okay. I mean, at least ask or find out if there's another location. So that's all I want to say about that. So your question about how I take care of myself. Well, I like to read a lot. So reading is my guilty pleasure. That's where I sort of kind of go into myself and just sort of, get the world out. Keep in mind though, my dad is still living in Louisiana. So I am still technically a caregiver, 5.5 hours away. So the stress itself still is sort of there. But I am remembering that again, as we get older, we don't have the people there to help. So those of us who can, we do. We are blessed that he's in a community where people are still helping him and taking care of him. And so what I do on this end, and I say on this end in Birmingham, I have a group of friends, a network of friends who we text in the morning. And if no one responds by 6 o'clock, hey, is everybody good? Sometimes it's just a matter of reaching out. And so that helps me, just knowing that people are looking out for me and making sure that I'm okay. Sometimes they'll say, hey, are you at the bookstore? Because they know that that's where I'll go and hide out, or I'll go to the library. If I just kind of need to go within, or I'll go to a book festival or whatever. It's okay to find those moments for yourself. Because if you don't, you will give out and you can't help person that you're supposed to be helping. And that's kind of how I started doing the advocacy work. Actually, when my mom was sleeping, I was up reading and learning and trying to figure out more things of, what to do. So when she was getting her rest, I was trying to learn more. So you carve out those moments of time when you can, and you don't feel guilty about it. That's the main thing. Don't feel guilty about it.
Reading before the sun comes up heals my soul. I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
That's my
absolutely.
sacred time. Michelle, the next piece that we're going to go into is the work that we're all doing to change systems together. So before we jump to that big step, how do you take care of yourself, and how do support you through all this?
I need to do a little bit better taking care of myself, because I get so passionate about taking care of people, So when I'm not working, I like to go out and I like to, I do things with the White Ribbon Project as well. Just what can I do to be there to help people, and empower people that their voice matters. So I do that without pay, which I don't, because we need more people to feel comfortable and feel loved and valued, to know they do matter. It doesn't matter what lifestyle you were given, or you chose, or what you're doing, where you live. Everybody is loved, and everybody is well. Everyone is a valuable member. No one is better than anyone else. I am a nurse navigator. I am not there are many navigators who are not nurses that are better than me, so we're all equal. So it's like we all need to start bringing people together and working together collectively to serve the people in the community. So anything I can do outside of work, I just do that. Just what can I do to bring people together to where they feel loved? You are important, so.
Michelle, we're going to jump into now this work that you all have been so critical in bringing to life. And we're going to drop in the chat the link to the Improving Health Equity in Lung Cancer Roundtable work that we've all been doing. And so thank you very much, Emily. We encourage everybody to learn more and visit that whenever you have time to check it out. But Laronica, can I ask you, having sat in those conversations and been a part of that with you, just hearing the conversations and how openly they're shared and what it means to the realities of how people are treated with stigma, or how they're not given information about biomarkers or how to navigate their journey. What does it mean for you to be doing work that's really about changing systems?
First of all, it was a surreal feeling to be a part of that entire project. Just because I remember in 2008 where we had nowhere to go. We did not have that foundational paper. We didn't have the people to ask the questions. And so to be able to participate and talk more about what my mom went through, and to figure out what the next steps are. I don't want to say it changed me, but I think it forced me to really look at what's next for me and how I can continue to do this work. And I don't know what that looks like, but I know that there's more work to do, because there's still so many questions out there about lung cancer and screening and stigma and biomarkers. And I just had a conversation with someone that I work with yesterday, and a lot of stuff that we were talking about, she had no idea about. And she works in healthcare with me. And so it's one of those things where you're like, okay, that's one person hopefully that I was able to kind of talk to for 10 minutes. And she said, I had no idea. I need to find out if my dad's been screened. And so being a part of that and knowing that it's just the start, it's just the beginning, makes me feel like I'm actually doing something for my mom, because she's no longer here to do it. And I know that if she were here, she would be doing this same work. My mom taught biology. So I find it sort of, I don't know what the word is, but that I would be doing this kind of work. So yeah, I feel like it's something that I'm blessed to be able to do. I don't know how. I feel like it's my mom that's pushing me to do this. It just feels natural. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but I do know that I'm happy to be a part of this because the information in that is just the start. We've got so many people to reach, so many people to educate on both sides about, the issues that our lung cancer patients are going through. And there's a long way to go, but we are so much farther than where we were in 2008 when my mom was diagnosed, and in 2012 when she passed away. And it seems so long ago, but but we've come so far. And so you can imagine just how far we'd be able to go if we continue to do things like this and with this paper, and we spread it far and wide, and we get our providers involved in understanding what this looks like, because I feel like our lung cancer patients are just kind of lost in this cloud of, that's the only way I can sort of explain it. So yeah, did I answer your question? I'm not sure, but anyway.
Completely. And what I can feel as your mom is glowing with pride over you, what I can feel is how much this impacts everybody, and we all need to be in this together. 2/3 of lung cancer patients are still not getting relevant therapies because of issues with biomarkers, and
Absolutely.
40% of cancer patients are still going through personal bankruptcy. It is nobody's fault. It is a system that we need to change, and I
Absolutely.
can feel your mom glowing with pride about you doing that. So
Yes.
it was
Thank
beautiful,
you. Thank you.
beautifully, yeah. Um,
Thank you.
Michelle, how about you? We're going to touch on the foundational paper and the work that you all have been doing. But what is it like for you to be involved in this work, knowing how big the challenges in the systems are, and to feel like you're moving things forward through your work?
The opportunity to be involved with the roundtable, it felt like a blessing that someone or a team was interested in hearing our voices as navigators and people in the front line. Because in a healthcare setting, we're not always valued and appreciated. We're not given the resources to do the work, and I'm always in the back of my head, and a phone call from that navigator who was just calling to find out how her program was. She broke down into tears and said, "I'm so glad you called me. They're blaming me for everything." And everything she was saying was, this is happening to all of us across the country because screening is new and the systems aren't made for lung screening yet, and it's working, but they were blaming her. And I have no idea if she's still a navigator, but she broke down in tears. But also being on the round table, I was able to see my failures as a navigator, hearing from the survivors, when they weren't getting, they, many of them weren't getting access to a navigator, or maybe the navigator had like hundreds of patients, and they didn't want to inconvenience them. It's like, that's not what navigation is. You're supposed to inconvenience me because that's my role. And I am supposed to anticipate that and be available to you. And so it allowed for me to reflect on the why I chose this and to build my courage and my strength to be able to. I will have to. There are times where you will be part of a great group, but there are also times that you have to stand alone, and the courage to stand up and stand alone as an advocate to ensure that the people you're serving are receiving the highest level of care in a timely manner while maintaining hope during their healthcare journeys. Hope should never be removed from someone's healthcare, whether it's end of life or uh, or or as a curable type. There's always hope and love, So you always have to make sure there's hope and love, and break down these barriers for people. So it's like everyone is important, but it made me feel valued, and it also gave me the courage that to stand confident in us, and even if I'm standing alone, focus on the patient and doing what's right. and just know that your work is important.
I don't know, Michelle, if you could see all the hearts coming up as you were chatting, but it feels like what you were saying resonates with a lot of people. The thing that I just heard you say that's so important is the humility piece of this. You know, I try to work on that all the time, that nobody has all the answers. And the ways that we can be humble and use humility to just listen better and try to help people connect. I hear that come through in everything you just said and the work that you do. As we go into just this last few minutes together, I encourage everybody to visit the link that Emily put in the chat for the Lung Cancer Health Equity Program. The individuals who are a part of that roundtable have helped identify some real barriers that we need to be more open about, and specifically the work that we're doing to change systems to deal with that. And so we invite everybody to visit that link. These are the voices of the individuals living these experiences. And so we would be honored for you to read those voices and hear what people are saying, and then join the conversation to make sure that we're being better. And so, Laronica, in just the last few minutes that we have, we've been talking about, how important it is to stay motivated and to stay focused on helping people. What to you is most important, or, how do you make sure that you feel inspired because so much of the future of humanity you're impacting?
I think back to like some of the patients that I helped when I worked in clinical trials in radiation oncology. I had a tremor trial that I was working on, and a lot of the patients I talked to, I was the first person they talked to. So what helped me was knowing that I was helping them understand the process and helping them feel better about what was going to happen. And that's all I can tell people is that, you don't have to necessarily work in a certain area or be in a certain career to do that. It's as simple as being that next door neighbor that can, take you to the doctor's appointment, right? Yes, I changed my career to do this, to make sure that I'm helping as many people as I can every day. But sometimes it's as long as you're helping one person, you've done something, because that's that person that needed that help at that moment. I don't know if we're necessarily here to help everybody, but we're here to at least make sure that we're helping those in the future. So if it's just that one person today, what we're doing now may help thousands in the future. So yeah, I think for me, it's just a day-to-day, making sure that I'm doing things that makes life easier for others. And it could be just as simple as, taking my church member someplace where she needs to go. And a lot of times that's a burden when, you're already dealing with a lot and people are afraid to ask. They don't want to bother people. So when you don't know what to do, say, hey, I'm going to Walmart. You want to go with me? Or you need something? Just volunteer it or whatever you need to do, because, sometimes that's all it takes. So yeah, it's just a day-to-day, how you live your life. And it's exactly how my mom lived her life. So
I can feel in your words how much you're making people's lives better. And I hope you could feel in these comments how much people admire you and are grateful for that. It's so wonderful to read these comments as you're talking. Michelle, same last question for you. How do you stay motivated and make sure that you're, staying inspired as you keep making the future better for people? I think it's still there.
Right. The people and the patients that I serve, they keep me moving forward, and the passion and love that I have to work with people provides me with the energy to continue to provide hope and empathic care every day, and always stay focused that you don't work for doctors, you work for the patient or the person with doctors. And when people feel like they're alone, when the patients feel like they're alone, you're not alone. Ask for your navigator. And if you're having issues getting a navigator, contact longevity or go to for lung cancer, and they will find you one. They'll find you somebody. You are, even when you feel alone, you're not alone. And as navigators, we are here to provide hope during the most difficult times in your life by walking right beside you in your journey. And we do this without judgment and with the highest level of empathy and compassion. And we're here. We will kick down the barriers before you see them, and get you out of there, and keep you moving in the right. We are your official healthcare bully to get you where you need to go. And so we will fight. That's what the healthcare system hired us to do, is to serve you and to be your personalized bully to get you where you need to go. Yeah.
I wish I could hug both of you right now. I feel that through all of my soul. I can't think of a better way to have started today than with your voices and your passion. And so we are, you can see the emotion on my face, so incredibly grateful for the work you do and the time that you spend with us. Lisa Cruz, you have embodied this, living the work with all of your heart that we do together. And so to be a part of this partnership and see the voices we're amplifying and the change it's creating is the honor of a lifetime. And I, of course, have to include Dave Bjork in that as well, because Dave Bjork is part of the heart in this. Lisa, we weren't planning this. Can I just hand it to you to say thank you and wrap up? Would that be okay?
So I would love to. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Just thank you for Laronica and Michelle for always bringing your authentic selves, and Dave. I mean, it's just really incredible what we can accomplish through authentic and honest and kind of forthright conversation with one another. So I learn something every time I'm on the line. I think I put it in the chat first, that patient preference is a part of the conversation and should be highly considered. Makes you feel a little bit more empowered when you know that. So that is an important piece of knowledge. So thank you for sharing that, Michelle. And Laronica, that advocacy happens in many different ways. Can we coin the term micro advocacy today? Maybe we just came up with something.
Maybe we did.
I think we did. I think it's those small acts of kindness that just really make a tremendous difference, especially for somebody living with a long-term illness. So I can't thank you enough. I love the work that we do together. I can't stress it enough. And I'm looking forward to what comes next. So thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.